All right, welcome to part 2 of masking and keyframing. So far we have put a mask around our rock here. If I click on mask, you can see this is where my mask is. Apparently I moved my mask just a little bit, so I'm just going to do a quick adjustment there. All right, so here I have my mask, and here I have my text. And then my text over here was coming up behind and it's slightly hidden behind my rock, my mountain. So I want to go over and actually have this text fly out from behind, come out. So how do I do that? Okay, so first I'd like to go over and point out that there are some words that are shared between video and graphics. And I do want to go over and just point out a problem that I have had students go over and make in the past. That is trying to do this motion here with this text using this position here. And this is why it's not going to work. The reason it's not going to work is because if I use this motion, you're not moving just the text. You're going to move the text and the mask. So if I change this, you'll notice that it didn't show the rest of the text, and that is because if I open up the opacity and I click on mask, I also move the mask. So that is not how to do it. You do not want to use this motion here. What you want to do is use motion under each of the texts. So I'm going to open up this here. I'm going to scroll down and open up where it says mountain pass, and I'm going to use this position here. So let's say that I would like to start this at 10 frames. So at 10 frames, I would like this word mountain pass to be hidden behind this little rock. So I'm going to move this over, and it is now hidden. Now, if I want this to appear, let's say 1 second later, I want to fly into the clouds over here. What I need to do first is to tell Adobe Premiere that this is where I want it to be at this time, and that at a second from now, I want it to be over here. To do that, you have to use keyframing. So this little almost looks like a stopwatch next to position. That right there is turning on keyframes. When I click on it, you'll notice that this little triangle appears. Now that triangle is saying that at exactly 10 frames, that this word will be in that position. So if I move forward 1 second and 10 frames, so 1 second later, I can now say I would like this text to be over here, and it'll make up the 2 points between those. Okay, so all the frames in between, it figures out where it needs to be between those 2 points. And obviously I just moved the word mountain pass. Now you can also do that for other tools such as rotation. So let's say rotation. I can turn on the keyframe here. It is currently at 5 degrees. Let's say I want it to rotate up until 1 second and 8 frames. So a little bit short of the actual full movement, and I want it to rotate up like this. So now it'll be doing 2 things. It's going to move it and rotate it. If I wanted it to change size, I'll go back to here. I'll add a keyframe. And let's say I want it to end at 16. So I want it to go and be right here. I want it to be size 16. Now, if I just want to add a keyframe, I can click on this little dot here. It'll add a keyframe. It is between the 2 arrows. These arrows, if you click on them, will take you from one keyframe back to the next, or in this case, previous. And at this keyframe, let's say I want it to be smaller. So I'll say 60. And it'll do this. So it is getting bigger as it goes out. Maybe let's go with something a little more dramatic there. Let's take it all the way down to 8. So you can see that it gets much bigger as it goes out. So, so those are keyframes that you can go over and put in for that. Now that I'm done Mountain Pass, I can hide that. And you'll see that there are little white dots here that say my keyframing. I can also move this out over here. Let's say at the end I want this, actually before I leave that, I want this to stay here and then I want it to disappear. So I would add a keyframe to all these different shapes. So it's not going to change. If I then wanted it to change from there on the way out, I want it to scale down to 0 and push enter. So now it's going to go from here and it's going to just scale down to 0. And maybe while it's scaling down, I would also like to have it rotate. So I'll have it rotate a little bit there. And now it's going to do this. Okay. So you can see that you could do a couple different things with the rotation tools, and you can have it disappear like that. So that is something you can alter with your text. Now, if I wanted to go over and change to nowhere, I would do the exact same thing. I would now use the disclosure triangle to hide where it says Mountain Pass. I would open up here. I would go to where I would like the text to appear. So let's say I wanted the text to be behind the mountain at this point. I would adjust my size. I would add a keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch. I would move out to when I would like it to appear. So let's say I wanted to appear and be done moving at that point, and I wanted to go to here. So it would look like this. Actually, I kind of want that to appear after, a little bit later. There we go. Okay, and again, remember time-wise, if I move this to be later, it'll appear later. Okay, so where your timeline is, that's when it's going to move. And then I could do the rest of the adjustments. Now, that's how you would adjust text. Now, I have had a couple people ask me questions on how you would go over and adjust pictures. So here is an example of a picture that goes across. Okay. In this case, this right here is an asteroid. Notice that it is a image over an image of a star. So that's my asteroid. Those are my stars. So when I click on asteroid, I can see that I have, it just says video. There's no graphics because there's no text. This is just a picture. I went and created a mask under opacity. My mask, I went all the way around, and then I did the same exact thing. I had this rotate through. If I wanted to have this also turn, I could add another keyframe, maybe right before it appears. And then I could go to right when it disappears. And I could do, let's say, I'm going to just go to a little rotation, not a lot. So let's say maybe 6 degrees. Okay, and then that's really subtle. Okay, so let me just go and do a bigger number so you can see it better. There we go. There you go. So there you can see that we're doing a rotation as we're flying through space. Okay. So the main difference between text and video or pictures is that here it'll just say video, and you can't, all these are linked together, and your mask will be over your whole picture. And in fact, that is the outline of my mask right there. And you can, of course, again, just picture and scale and stuff like that. So those are an example of how you would go for and mask and keyframe.